This happened just a few months ago. I was 32 and had recently moved back into my childhood home after my parents passed away. I thought it would be comforting to settle into familiar surroundings. The house was modest and built in the 70s. It sat on a small hill in a quiet town. I had just finished renovating the attic for an art studio. I believed it would spark my creativity and help me heal. But then things turned strange. I can't get it out of my mind. On my first night there, I was unpacking paint supplies. It was quiet, just me surrounded by walls thick with memories. I had just opened a tin of blue paint when I heard it, a soft thud above me. I froze, paintbrush in hand. I was sure I was alone. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe the house was settling after years of neglect. Still, it nagged at me. The next few nights, the noises grew louder. They started as soft footsteps creeping through the darkness. I'd lie in bed, heart racing, hoping it was just my imagination. Late on the third night, I ventured into the attic. I felt uneasy. With the dim light flickering, I checked corners and shadows, searching for something that could explain it. That's when I found a small toy car at the edge of the attic floor, dust caked on it. I had cleared everything before renovations. A chill raced down my spine. Maybe it was just something left behind by my parents. I tucked it away, dismissing the thought. But things only escalated. I remember waking up one night to faint laughter. I thought I was dreaming. I half opened my eyes, feeling groggy. I glanced at my clock. It was 3 a.m. I got out of bed and tiptoed to the attic door, legs trembling. I needed to know, but when I opened it, there was nothing, just silence and shadows stretching across the walls. I stood there, heart racing. Was I losing my mind? I couldn't understand it. I wanted to believe it was just the house, but that felt wrong. A presence lingered in the air. As I climbed back into bed, the laughter echoed in my head. Why was this happening? I tried to tell myself it was leftover grief. Maybe I was just tired from working. Every footstep and laugh pushed me further into doubt. The attic felt alive, hiding secrets I didn't want to know. One night I sat in the attic, scraping paint from an old easel. That's when I heard it, a whisper just above my head, like someone was there with me. I turned to face it. My stomach dropped. There was nothing but dark. Every sound felt like a warning. I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't know what to do. I just wanted peace in a house full of memories. But those whispers and footsteps continued, reminding me I was not alone. What was up there? I still wonder what shadows lurked in that attic, always waiting, always watching. The night after my last unsettling encounter felt different. I thought I might finally get some rest. Instead, an oppressive silence settled in the house, thick and suffocating. I rolled over in bed, staring at the ceiling, the dark shadows stretching and shifting under the moonlight. I wanted to convince myself it was just my imagination, but it felt too real. By morning, I decided to confront my fears head-on. I couldn't keep avoiding the attic. Maybe I needed to find the source of the sounds and confront whatever was there. Armed with a flashlight and a deep breath, I made my way up the creaky stairs. Each step felt like a declaration of my resolve. As I entered the attic, the air was cooler, tinged with dust and something else I couldn't place. The beam of my flashlight bounced off the walls, revealing more clutter than I remembered. An old trunk, some discarded furniture, and those same shadows that seemed to form shapes. I felt the urge to turn back, but I didn't. I stepped further in, keeping an eye on the corners. That's when I saw it. A curtain swayed gently, even though there was no breeze. My stomach twisted. I approached it cautiously, light flickering. It looked like an old, tattered sheet draped over something. Heart pounding, I pulled the sheet aside. Underneath there was a small, dusty mirror. The glass was warped, reflecting only distorted images of the attic. It felt wrong somehow, like it belonged to another time. I picked it up and examined it closely. There were old markings etched along the frame. They looked like names or dates, but I couldn't decipher them. I was about to turn away when a voice broke the stillness, clear and sweet like a child's laughter. It sent ice through my veins. I whipped around, breath hitching in my throat. No one was there. I scanned the attic again, feeling more exposed than ever. My pulse raced as I called out, "Who's there?" Only silence answered, echoing my own fear back at me. Not ready to leave yet, I reluctantly placed the mirror back on the floor. As I did, I noticed something shimmered behind it. I knelt and brushed away a layer of dust. There, hidden beneath some old boxes, was another toy, a teddy bear, its eyes button-like and lifeless. It appeared well-loved, one ear slightly torn, as if it had been cherished by a child long gone. In that moment, everything clicked. The whispers I heard, the laughter, the footsteps, they all pointed to a presence I couldn't understand. I felt trapped, like I had entered a realm of memories too heavy to bear. I backed away, my heart racing again. Just as I turned to flee, the attic door slammed shut. Panic gripped me. Someone or something was here with me. Then it all went dark. I blinked, trying to make sense of the sudden darkness. My flashlight flickered and then failed. I felt around blindly, my heart drumming in my chest. I could barely breathe. A sound broke the silence, a low, soft thud. It came from behind me. I turned, instinctively seeking the source of the noise. My mind raced with possibilities. Had I stumbled upon something, or was it something trying to find me? In the pitch blackness, I held on to the last vestiges of my courage. "Hello, is someone there?" I called out, my voice shaky. That laughter from before echoed in my ears again, taunting me. There was no answer, only the unsettling creak of the floorboards beneath me. I edged my foot backward and nearly stumbled over the teddy bear. Panic flared as I felt it, a cold, lifeless thing beneath my shoe. I could almost hear it whisper a forgotten name. With trembling hands, I picked it up, the soft fabric surprisingly comforting in this bizarre situation. Just then, I noticed something shift in the dark. A faint glow flickering from under the boxes. Curiosity pushed me forward, and I moved toward it, clutching the teddy bear like a shield. A pinprick of light bounced around, teasing my vision. As I got closer, I could see the outline of a small item glistening among the debris. It was another mirror, this one smaller, and framed in what appeared to be twisted branches. I reached out and brushed my fingers over it, and my skin tingled. The moment my fingers made contact, a rush of air whooshed past me, wrapping around me like a cold embrace. I gasped as the mirror sprang to life, the surface swirling like a tempest. I leaned closer, captivated by the movement within the glass. There were blurry images, a little girl in a bright dress, a shadowy figure looming behind her, watching. I struggled to pull away, but my feet felt rooted to the floor. Suddenly, the images solidified, and I could hear muffled voices. The laughter returned, but this time there was an edge to it, an urgency that made my skin crawl. In a blink, the little girl turned, her face twisted with fear, as if she were looking directly at me. "Help me," she screamed through the mirror, her small hands pressing against the glass. Behind her, the shadow grew larger, clearer. It didn't look human. I stumbled back, horrified, my instincts screaming at me to run. Before I could make my escape, the attic door swung open again, slamming into the wall. A bright light flooded the space, forcing me to squint. The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, its face obscured. My heart dropped. I had no idea who or what it was. I felt the heavy air shift, leaving dread in its wake. "Why did you disturb her?" the figure said, the voice low and deliberate. I stood frozen in place, every muscle tense. I hadn't just walked into something, I had awakened it. Before I could answer, the attic went dark again, and the laughter returned, echoing through my mind as I braced myself for whatever was about to happen next. The darkness felt heavier, wrapping around me like a thick blanket. I could barely breathe, the air stifling as I stood there, paralyzed. The figure in the doorway was gone, but its presence remained in my mind, like a shadow clinging to me. I could hear faint whispers, almost like a distorted melody, swirling around me. I took a cautious step back, my feet still unsteady, and bumped into a pile of boxes. They collapsed, sending a spray of dust and debris into the air, causing me to cough. I needed to escape, but the attic felt like a trap, every direction filled with uncertainty. "Okay, just breathe," I whispered to myself, trying to calm the rising panic. I clutched the teddy bear tighter, a strange sense of comfort coming from it despite everything. "You can do this." My flashlight flickered back to life for a brief moment, and I seized the chance. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the space ahead. But nothing looked familiar. More boxes lined the walls and cobwebs draped like veils over forgotten corners. I needed to find a way out before whatever was in here turned its attention back to me. Then I spotted a small door at the far end of the attic, slightly ajar. Had I missed it before? A rush of hope surged through me, the possibility of escape. I moved cautiously toward it, stepping over the scattered remnants of what seemed like decades of hoarding. The whispers intensified as I approached the door. I froze, my heart racing again. I could feel a distinct change in the atmosphere, a cold breeze prickling the back of my neck. I had the growing sensation that I was not alone, that I was being watched again. Just as I reached for the doorknob, the teddy bear let out a soft, almost ethereal sound that stopped me in my tracks. It was an unmistakable giggle, light and innocent, yet it sent chills down my spine. Shivers ran through me. Was it the girl from the mirror? Or was something else trying to lure me deeper into this nightmare? Before I could respond to my own fears, the door creaked open a little more, as if inviting me to enter. I hesitated, glancing back toward the spot where the figure had appeared. The darkness around me seemed thicker and the whispers grew louder. Suddenly, without warning, I heard a loud crash behind me, like something heavy falling over. Heart hammering, I instinctively turned around. In an instant, the beam of my flashlight cut through the blackness and revealed a large chest that had toppled over, spilling its contents, a jumble of old toys and dusty photographs, onto the floor. Among them, something caught my eye. A photograph face down seemed different from the others. I bent down to pick it up, my fingers trembling. When I flipped it over, I gasped. It was a picture of the little girl from the mirror smiling brightly against a backdrop that looked eerily familiar. The same attic, the same old boxes. Terror gripped me. They were connected. The girl, the laughter, the shadow. But who was the figure in the doorway? I stood frozen, holding the photograph tightly as the laughter crescendoed around me. I had to find out what happened in this attic before it consumed me whole. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed movement near the small door. Something, or someone, was slipping through the crack. I felt my chest tighten. I had to make a choice, confront whatever was on the other side, or find an escape route while I still could. I glanced back at the small door, heart racing. The movement I'd seen was too subtle to make out clearly, but something was there. I could either explore the unknown or take a chance and flee through the other side of the attic. But I was frozen in place. The giggle echoed again, brighter this time, warm and inviting yet horrifying in its innocence. It felt impossible to look away from that door. It beckoned me like a moth to a flame. I wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans and took a deep breath. Adrenaline pushed me forward. I had to know what was behind it. I stepped closer, flashlight steady. The whispers had turned into fragmented words that tugged at the edges of my understanding. "Come play," they seemed to say. The childlike tone twisted my stomach. Before I could rationalize my next move, I reached for the doorknob. As my fingers brushed against the cold metal, I hesitated. What if it was a trap? But I couldn't stand here forever, tortured by curiosity and fear. I needed to uncover the secret of the attic. I twisted the knob and pulled the door open. The room beyond was dim, lit only by streaks of moonlight slicing through the cracks in the walls. I stepped across the threshold with the flashlight leading the way. The air was fresher here, yet the tension remained. As I moved in, I saw several dusty toys spread across the floor, dolls with cracked faces and stuffed animals, all seemingly discarded. But in the corner, something shimmered. I walked towards it, my heart pounding as I approached the source of the faint glow. It was a music box, an intricate piece adorned with carvings of unicorns, untouched by dust. The moment I picked it up, the music started playing. A soft, haunting tune filled the room, causing the hair on my arms to stand up. I felt something shift behind me, the air growing heavier. I spun around, ready to bolt back through the door. But there she was, the little girl from the photograph, her laughter fading into silence. She stood there, pale and ethereal, her eyes wide and curious. Fear skittered through my chest, yet there was also an undeniable sense of longing in her gaze. "Why do you have my music box?" she asked, her voice light and airy, almost like the music itself. My mouth went dry. I don't know, I stammered, hoping to find words, to reason with this apparition. "I just found it. Who are you?" "I'm lost," she said simply, a sad smile on her lips. "Can you help me find my way?" I had always wondered about connection, about what clings to the fibers of this life. Now, standing before a ghostly figure, the burden of her lost innocence weighed down on me. But I couldn't help her. I didn't even know how I ended up here, nor how to escape this wicked web of past horrors. Before I could respond, a loud thump echoed from behind me. I whipped around, flashlight in hand, but the sound was gone. I turned back to the girl. She was gone too, leaving only the music box in my frozen grip. A sudden panic gripped me. I was not alone in this attic. Someone, or something, was watching me. I needed to leave before I ended up just like her, another lost soul trapped in the shadows. But as I turned towards the door, it slammed shut with a force that rattled the entire attic. I was trapped, and whatever lingered in this dark space was not done with me yet. The silence in the attic felt like it had weight. I pressed my back against the door, my breath coming in quick bursts as I fought to think clearly. What was that thump? And where had the girl gone? I shifted, trying to calm the racing thoughts in my head. I flicked the flashlight across the room again, desperate for something familiar. The dolls appeared to stare at me from their dusty corners. I swallowed hard, feeling their glassy gazes follow my every move. I couldn't let fear paralyze me. I had to figure out how to escape. With a determined shove, I pushed against the door. It didn't budge. I felt a surge of panic rising again, but I forced myself to breathe. Hands trembling, I turned back toward the unsettling shadows in the room. That's when I noticed something else. Near the base of the wall, tucked half behind a broken rocking horse, was a small box. It looked just like an old jewelry box, but covered in dust. My heart raced, half out of fear and half out of a strange pull toward it. I crept over, every footstep echoing around me. I reached down and tugged the box out from where it had hidden. My hands were shaking as I surveyed it. It was beautifully crafted, with delicate engravings of flowers and vines. I was hyper-aware of every second, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. I could still hear the distant echoes of the girl's laughter in my mind, but this time, it felt like an invitation rather than a threat. I carefully opened the box. Inside, I found a collection of trinkets, a tarnished locket, a tiny wooden horse, and a stack of faded photographs. My fingers brushed across them, and an instant chill crawled down my spine. One of the photos showed the little girl next to a woman. I assumed it was her mother, smiling broadly. But the other images were unsettling. They depicted the same girl in various poses, but there was something off in each photo, as if she was fading away with every snap. I felt like I was intruding on something profoundly private. I pulled back, clutching the box to my chest. Suddenly, a crash echoed from above, making the ceiling tremble. My instincts screamed at me to leave, yet I was rooted to the spot, paralyzed by need and fear. Then everything went dark. The flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into total blackness. I turned in circles, gripping the jewelry box tightly. Where was the door? I could almost hear whispers again, almost like a chorus of voices, layering over one another. "Come play," they said in a sing-song tone, each word more urgent than the last. I stumbled backward, but the wall stopped me. I had to get out. I wanted to scream, but the sound got caught in my throat. In that moments of dread, I squeezed my eyes shut, thinking I might will myself to wake up from this nightmare. When I opened them again, I saw a faint glow beginning to form in the corner of the room, growing brighter, pulsating like a heartbeat. Where was it coming from? I had no choice but to investigate. I felt my way toward the light, hoping it might lead to an escape or answers. But deep down, I feared what I would find. As I moved closer to the glow, my heart thudded hard in my chest. The light pulsated with a strange rhythm, and as I reached the source, I found it was coming from an old glass jar, sitting precariously on a rickety shelf. Inside the jar was nothing but a thick mist swirling in different shades of blue and silver, illuminating the dark corners of the room. I leaned in closer, mesmerized. The sight was both beautiful and unsettling. There was something alive in that mist, almost like it was breathing. Just then the whispers returned stronger, wrapping around me. "Join us," they beckoned, the voices overlapping like a haunting melody. I recoiled, instinctively stepping back, and in doing so, I tripped over the chair that had been knocked over earlier. I fell hard, the jewelry box slipping from my grip and crashing to the floor. The sound echoed sharply in the silence. My pulse raced as I scrambled to my feet, fear clawing at my throat. The jar's glow flickered with my movements. I had to gather myself. I couldn't let the darkness swallow me whole. Fumbling in the murky light, I reached for the box again. It was open now, the trinkets scattered wildly about. I hurriedly stuffed everything back inside, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. That's when I noticed a new photo lying face down by my foot. Slowly, I picked it up, fearing what I'd find. It depicted the little girl again, but this time, she was holding a doll that looked eerily similar to the one sitting near the rocking horse. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. There was something familiar about that doll, almost as if I had seen it before. In the distance, I heard the thump again, louder this time, followed by what sounded like giggles. The sound filled me with dread. I turned toward the staircase leading down, but hesitated. I wasn't ready to leave. I needed answers. What if the girl was still here somewhere? I felt a whisper of movement by the door, and my attention snapped back to the entrance. The door now stood ajar, revealing a sliver of darkness beyond. I didn't notice it opening. Panic surged as I felt a cold breeze sweep past me, sending a chill rippling through the air. That was it. This was no longer just about escaping. I had to know who the girl was and what part she played in this haunting. As I inched closer to the door, the light in the glass jar began to flicker more intensely. It pulsed like a heartbeat, matching the anxious rhythm of my own. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to the door, feeling that familiar pull. But just before I could escape into the hallway, I heard the sing-song voice call to me again. "Don't go. Don't leave us." I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorframe. Whatever lay ahead on the other side felt more dangerous than what I had already faced. But I couldn't turn back now. Not when I was so close to finding the truth. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open wider. The creak of the hinges sounded like a warning. I stepped into the darkness, squinting as my eyes adjusted. The hallway stretched before me, long and shadowy, filled with an unsettling quiet. The giggles echoed again, making the hair on my arms stand on end. They seemed to dance through the air, leading me further down the corridor. Despite the fear curling in my gut, something inside me felt compelled to follow. I shuffled forward, the floor creaking under my weight. Suddenly, the air became heavy. My breath came out in short gasps. Each step felt like wading through an unseen current. That's when I saw it, a flicker of movement at the end of the hallway. The outline of a small figure stood just beyond the light. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. The figure turned slightly, but it was too dark to see clearly. I took another tentative step forward. "Is someone there?" The figure vanished and the laughter stopped abruptly. Silence filled the space, stretching painfully. I felt an intense urge to turn back, but I clenched my fists, reminding myself that I was searching for answers. I needed to know more about the girl and the mystery surrounding her. As I reached the end of the hallway, I noticed a door slightly ajar. The wood was weathered, and shadows spilled out like ink. I could hear muffled whispers on the other side, calling to me like a siren song. "Join us," they coaxed. My heartbeat quickened again, but I stepped closer, heart pounding. Just as I reached for the doorknob, the whispers shifted. They weren't friendly anymore. "Turn back," they warned, rougher now. The sweetness replaced with a chilling edge. I hesitated, my hand frozen midair. Something was off. The air turned icy. I took a step back, instinct urging me to flee, but curiosity anchored me. I needed to understand. I shoved the door open and stepped inside. The room was small and cluttered, filled with dust and shadows. Old toys were strewn about, memories of a forgotten childhood. And then I saw her, a girl with pale skin and dark, hollow eyes, sitting cross-legged in the corner. Her eyes locked onto mine, wide with a mix of sadness and something else I couldn't quite name. "Why are you here?" she whispered, her voice barely louder than a breath. I couldn't find my words. The room felt like it was closing in. I'm looking for you," I finally stammered. "I found your picture." Her expression shifted, the corners of her mouth trembling. "You shouldn't have come. They won't let you leave," she said, glancing nervously behind her. Who won't let me leave?" My mind raced. I felt like I was unraveling, my grip on reality slipping. Before she could respond, there was a heavy thud from somewhere deep within the house. The air grew dense and the laughter returned, now menacing and wild. My instinct screamed at me to run, but I was rooted in place, fear gripping me like a vice. Then the shadows on the walls shifted suddenly, stretching and twisting. I turned back to the girl, but she was disappearing into a dark haze, her features melting away. "Help me!" she cried just as the laughter crescendoed. My blood ran cold. The darkness was coming, and soon it would be my turn to join them. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a pile of broken toys. The laughter roared to life again, echoing off the walls, and my heart raced as I forced myself to breathe. I was acutely aware of each creak of the floorboards beneath me. I had to get out of there, but the doorway seemed miles away, pulling me back with every frantic beat of my heart. I turned to face the girl again, hoping she would somehow reappear. But there was only darkness swallowing the room whole. Panic surged through me. "What do you mean they won't let me leave?" I shouted into the void, desperate for an answer. The walls seemed to close in, shadows licking at my heels. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimmer of something. I turned to see an old mirror propped against the wall, its surface clouded and cracked. I walked toward it, drawn by a force I couldn't resist. Maybe I would catch a glimpse of something beyond this nightmare. As I neared, my reflection flickered back at me, but my image didn't match what I remembered. My face was pale, eyes wide and wild, as if I hadn't seen sunlight in years. And behind me the shadows writhed, forming shapes that seemed almost human. They whispered my name, and a chill swept through me. "Run!" The girl's voice was faint, but I could hear her pleading through the echo of laughter, now sinister and sharp. I whipped around, but there was nothing but the void and my racing pulse. Suddenly the whispers escalated into a frenzy. "Join us! Stay with us!" they screamed, a cacophony that made my head throb. "You belong here!" With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged for the door, slamming it shut behind me. I leaned against it, breathing hard, feeling the rough wood press into my back. I couldn't let them take me too. I had to get out. As I glanced back down the hallway, I realized it was shifting, walls morphing, narrowing the space around me. The thought of being trapped in this madness broke open a new wave of fear. I took a few deep breaths, trying to clear my head. "Think," I told myself. I had to figure out a way to escape and uncover the truth about the girl. I scanned the hallway, searching for another exit. Then I remembered the back stairs. Perhaps they would lead me to freedom. I broke into a run, ignoring the deafening laughter that filled my ears. Each hesitant step made the laughter grow louder. My foot landed on the first step, but it felt slippery, almost oily. I grabbed the railing for support, the wood splintering under my grip. I took a deep breath and hurried up, ignoring the roiling sense of dread that accompanied me. Just as I reached the second floor, the laughter fell silent. A new sound clawed its way into the air, a low whisper that seemed to swirl around me. "You thought you could escape?" It hissed. The heaviness in the air became unbearable, as if I was being wrapped in a suffocating shroud. Then before I could react, a figure stepped into view at the end of the hallway. A shadowy silhouette with eyes that glinted like sharpened edges. I froze. It wasn't just the girl anymore. Something far worse had come to claim me. The figure loomed larger as I stood paralyzed, my instincts screaming for me to flee. The laughter returned, merging with that low whispering, creating a symphony of terror that echoed in my ears. I couldn't let fear immobilize me any longer. I had to move. I dashed down the hallway, heart pounding furiously, the shadows unpredictably shifting around me. Every creak of the floor felt like an impending trap. The dark figure drifted closer, its presence enveloping me like a cold gust of wind. I reached the edge of the hallway and spotted a window at the far end that I vaguely remembered from my childhood exploration. Years ago, it had seemed small and distant. Now it was my beacon of hope. I rushed toward it, ignoring the whispers that clawed at my mind, drowning out my resolve. "Help us," they said in a haunting chorus. A shudder ran through me, the plea so desperate. But I didn't have time. The figure was gaining ground, manifesting in a swirling mist that beckoned with unearthly allure. I gasped and lunged for the window, throwing my weight against it, desperately praying it would yield. At first, it didn't budge. Panic clawed at my chest as I pushed harder. The laughter rumbled again, echoing off the walls like thunder, and I could feel the pull of whatever was chasing me. "There's nowhere to go," it taunted, the air growing thick with despair. Finally, I managed to pry open the window. Fresh air poured in, intoxicating and liberating, breaking through the suffocating darkness around me. I glanced back, spotting the swirling figure still closing in. With a final surge, I squeezed my body through the opening, the glass cutting into my skin, but the cold night air rushing over me was invigorating. I tumbled onto the grass outside, rolling awkwardly before scrambling to my feet. The cool earth felt grounding, a stark contrast to the maddening atmosphere I had just escaped. I stood there, panting, staring back at the house. A blanket of silence settled around me, and I hesitated, grappling with the urge to run. But an unseen force pulled my gaze back to the attic's dim window, where a shadow stood, watching me from behind the dusty glass. A familiar small silhouette with wide eyes. My heart ached. I wanted to help that girl, to free her from whatever darkness held her captive. But how? From my spot on the ground, I felt the weight of her loss, an inexplicable connection that left me torn. I needed answers, but would uncovering them draw me back into that nightmare? I tore my eyes away and sprinted down the hill, knowing I couldn't look back. The laughter still echoed in my mind, mingling with her haunting call for help. I raced toward the main road, heart pounding in my chest, desperate to distance myself from that terrible place. Days turned into weeks as I settled into a new routine in town, trying to convince myself to forget. I avoided that street, the memories of the attic lurking just beneath my consciousness. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't truly escaped. The heaviness lingered like a shadow. Every now and then I would wake in the night, the echoes of laughter pulling me from sleep, leaving me restless and unsettled. Sometimes, when I passed the old house, I felt that unmistakable tug, a sly whisper reminding me of the child's call for help. Did she find peace? Was I merely a vessel for her cries? I couldn't know. I continued on with life, but knew I left part of myself tangled in that attic, with its whispers, shadows, and the mystery that now intertwined with my own existence. After all, some doors are never meant to be closed entirely.